guys, Jess here from the Scrappy Sisters. So I have sped this up quite quickly because it's a bit of a fiddly process and I didn't want it to go too long, but I am making an ice cream cone. And I decided I could have just cut an ice cream cone out of paper. I could have done lots of things. Could have embossed a piece of paper first and then cut it out so it still had texture. But I don't have an embossing kit. I don't have something big enough to run an embossing kit through. And I thought just a cut out triangle was a bit boring. So I've decided to do weaving. And this pattern paper that I chose is yellow. And on the pattern paper itself, it had a yellow stripe, and then the second yellow stripe had white lines through it. And I thought this is perfect to look like a waffle cone. So I'm alternating my weaves between all the plain yellows are going vertically, and the yellows that have got the white stripe through them are going horizontal. And as you can see, I've got a triangle there that I'm using as sort of a guide base to give me an idea of where I need to weave and how big the weave needs to get, because I didn't want to cut into too much of this pattern paper. So I want to try and make the most out of these strips that I've got, if that makes sense. And I am going to use that triangle shape to glue onto the back of this weaving to help hold everything together, because even if I just glued down the ends, when I then cut the weave into a triangle, I might not have glued in the right spot. So I'm going to glue the whole entire thing down at the end. Don't worry though, you see all of this. So as you can see, the weaving is not like a big perfect square, because I knew I was making a triangle and I'd end up cutting off so much of that and wasting so much of that. And as I said before, I wanted to try and make the most of using as much of these strips of paper as I could without having to cut into more of that pattern paper, because the other side of this yellow pattern paper is beautiful navy blue floral, and it was gorgeous. I wanted to try and use it as well. So weaving away just your normal, normal weave. Haven't glued anything down, haven't secured anything yet. It's just all being held together by pushing quite tightly and making the weave sort of as tight as I can. I didn't spend ages making sure the bits of paper are exactly the same thickness. They're not. They're close, but they're not. They're all over the shop. And I didn't find that to be a huge problem. There's a couple of little gaps where I can't push it completely close together, but in general, it's worked really well. You just got a quick glance there at what the pattern paper is. I think it's Shimelle. A Shimelle, I don't know what it's, which collection it's called, but I'm pretty sure it's a Shimelle piece of paper. So there it is, the beautiful floral on the back. Even weaved, it's beautiful. So I have finished all the weaving, putting glue all over the back and sticking on my triangle. I then decide I'm still a little bit worried about the edges coming apart. I just want to make sure this is secure, so I'm just gluing down all those top flaps as well, just to make sure. I figure I can't hurt, better to be safe than sorry. So I've tried to not get too much glue on this yellow side, because I don't want to get that sort of shiny PVA look. And then it's obviously very gluey, so I just balance it on top of my glue there to dry, and that is the finished piece. It looks awesome. And so I'm now just going to cut loosely around that triangle I made. I'm going to cut a little bit bigger than the triangle, mostly just to get the most out of this weaving, so I don't have too many bits that I'm just throwing into the bin. And I'm pretty proud of myself in terms of how well I weaved this to not have too many scraps left over. It worked really good, which was my whole purpose of not wasting too much of the paper. So I'm happy about that. So my waffle cone is looking pretty awesome. So just rounding off the little tip at the bottom. You could keep a pointy tip, but I like the idea of having a rounded tip. And that's the photo I am using of my little man munching into his very first real ice cream cone, and it's a cornetto. And I'm not sure if this is a proud moment or a horrified moment. He got through quite quite a bit of that ice cream. I did get to finish it off and eat most of the cone, but the actual ice cream part, I was impressed by how much he got through. So just sticking this down onto my paper, sort of centering it as best I can right down the bottom because I want to have a whole bunch of space to do my ice cream. So there it goes down there. Stoke. And I'm really happy. I'm really stoked with how this is working out. Now, off camera, I diamond pressed into circles a whole bunch of pattern papers that I had that came in this kit because I decided I'm only going to use kit things just to try and use up some of my old kits that I've got sitting around. And so I've did a variety of sizes and I'm just going to pop these around anywhere, not too close together. Try and keep the same colours separate. I'm starting with the biggest circle first and then going down to the smaller circles. If I've got more than one of the pattern paper, I check the back and then I just choose which side I like the best. Because sometimes, even though the whole pattern paper is beautiful, when you cut out small bits and you look at it, you're like, you didn't get anything good. You didn't get any of the good colours. So I'm just choosing which ones I like the best. And I also don't want too much navy or too much pink going on. I want to try and balance it out quite nicely. And I chose to end up using this kit for it because my son's wearing navy blue and grey top. So I thought that ties in quite well with the colours in this kit. So just sticking down circles. I have sped this up quite a bit. I hope that is not hurting your brain too much. But it was tricky to know what to edit out if you want to see the whole process of how I'm actually getting these circles together without losing anything too much. So I just decided to put it on fast forward. And I'll tell you now, because I don't have a huge amount to talk about, I'm not thrilled. I made one slight error with how I did this, and it was that I made the ice cream lopsided. You can tell already by looking at it that there's way more on the right than there is on the left. And I don't know, for some reason, I didn't really notice. Perhaps it's the angle you're on because you're not looking over the top. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'm not thrilled by that. You can see off to the left there, I've got a little Project Life card with an ice cream on it. I was thinking I might use that as an embellishment, but actually ended up being really minimalistic with embellishing because I feel that the weaving in the cone and all the spots in the ice cream really sells it. Like I didn't need to add too much more. So I'm really happy with the way this is going. I placed down my photos so I kind of had an idea of where I didn't need to fill. I didn't have to bother filling because the pictures were going there anyway. But right in the very center, there is quite a large hole. And I've run out of big circles and I was starting to get worried because I had plenty of small circles, but I thought it might look weird to have heaps and heaps of small circles all piled in together. So in a sec, I'm going to grab out some scraps and diamond press. Yeah, see, there we go. Diamond press just a few more bigger ones because I just didn't love the way that it was looking. And this is how I very strategically chose what color papers I used to cut these larger circles. It was the papers that had not like chunks missing. So any that were in like big, nice, perfect squares, I didn't use those. Any that were like, L shapes or wibbly wobbly, I used those ones because it didn't bother me to cut a bit more into them. So that's how I very, overthought it, color coordinated it. No, none of that. Oh, that's a weird shaped piece of paper. I'll cut that one. Sometimes the less I think about it, the better for me. My brain overthinks everything. I did actually message this to Katie and be like, what else should I do? It's not working. I seem to do that quite a bit. She never does it to me. She just must be like this super awesome scrapbooker that just does things and doesn't have too much in her brain. She just go. Whereas I'm like that, umming and ahhing and looking online and checking with other people and looking through my stash for just the right perfect thing. And this layout took me like 3 days. Not because it was that, like, I knew exactly my idea of how I wanted to do this, but because I needed the waffle cone to dry. And then I try not to scrap at night for you. I do scrap at night, but the lighting I have is not amazing. And I know when you're watching the videos, it's not ideal to have my nighttime scrapping. So even though I actually wanted to scrap this a couple of nights during the week, I thought I better not. I'll scrap something else, or I'll go to bed early and I'll scrap this one during the day. So I'm thinking of you. So it took me a couple of days to get this done. A couple of, and I also don't have a huge amount of time with my son at home. So I have to do it in nap time, but you start needing nap time to get other things done as they nap less and less and less. So I also only get sort of, 30 minutes, 45 minutes of scrapbooking a time. So even though I say it took me 3 days to do, that's like an hour and a half of scrapping, which is a huge amount of time for one layout. I totally get it. But the waffle cone was one night and it took 20 minutes maybe, because it was a bit fiddly. And then cutting all the circles out, that was another night, because the diamond press is awesome. I totally love the diamond press, but as anyone knows that have dies that want to do numerous things, you can still sort of only do one piece at a time. If you've got a slightly thinner card, you can maybe fold it in half and get 2 or 3 push through at a time, but you can't do that many. So anyway, raving over because all the spots are down now, and I am just using some foam to pop up my photos. I was thinking about adding dimension to the circles that I was putting down, but I decided I wouldn't, and I just foam up the photographs to make those sort of stand out a little bit more. I fussy cut my circles out for the photos, so they're not perfect, but I wanted to try and get them as big as I possibly could, and that was bigger than the diamond press. So I fussy cut that out, and they're pretty close. I was reasonably happy. I don't think you notice in amongst all of that. Then a bit of Heidi Shine, just covering the photos again because I don't want to splash onto the photographs. I forgot the lid was off and I shook the Heidi Shine and got Heidi Shine everywhere. So I did just splash a little bit with my hand. Yeah, if you get Heidi Shine on your photos and you're super quick at like trying to wipe it off, you can sometimes, but it's not worth the heartache. It's better to cover them. So I did a big heading of ice cream, and I'm now sticking these gorgeous Shimelle buttons down. Oh, can we take a poll? Ice cream, hyphenated, not hyphenated? I don't think it is, but my husband insists that it is, so I chose to believe him because he's generally a better speller than me. I then decided that it was still too lopsided, so I added my first in smaller gold stickers, thickers, to sort of help balance out the sides. Then a few enamel dots, trying to use up the bigger ones because I really like the small ones, and I use the small ones the most. And then I'm straight into the small ones. I just love them. The small ones are the best. And I just think they're really cute. Just a whole bunch of different colors that sort of match in. And then I am finished, I think. And I'm quite happy now. I think adding the My First with the ice cream was a great idea because I think that balanced up the right side with the left side. It was almost like I purposefully didn't put too many circles over there so it didn't distract from the heading. I also really wanted to put the ice cream all the way in and across the actual ice cream because in that center spot where I said there was a big hole, it was starting to become a little bit clustered, so I wanted to make sure the M was covering over the top of it. And I just love this. I think it looks so great. The texture of that waffle cone is amazing. Then to have, the buttons and the enamel dots and then the gold glitter cardstock. Oh, yes. So I hope you love it too. Please like and subscribe, and please stay tuned for more Scrappy Sisters videos coming up soon. Bye guys!